Right, the United social media accounts are still posting videos of Erik ten Hag in his beige suit on his first day touring Old Trafford, but no doubt he'll already be getting to work for when the players return from their holidays next month and his rebuild begins. We've asked you on the last couple of podcasts to get involved in shaping this next chart. You've done it on the app, you've done it on Twitter as well. It's been brilliant to have you having your say and setting the agenda for this next topic, because we're going to talk about the work that's ahead for Erik ten Hag. And specifically, we asked you what you wanted to see from his Manchester United on the first day of next season. And this first bit is marked for the attention of Mr. C. Anchor. James says, I want to see a proper defensive midfielder. Are you James, Carl?
No. I very much agree with James. I think United need reinforcements and upgrades in a number of positions, and number one on that list is a defensive midfielder. I think I've been saying this ever since this podcast has existed. United need a defensive midfielder. They need a number 6.
I think we've all been saying it since we possibly could say it, that they've needed it, because they've needed it for so long.
Who would you want, Carl? Who do you reckon's realistic this window, or maybe idealistically, who would you want?
I always get this question, and I'm always a bit reluctant to give a name out, because I always feel it'll get picked up by aggregators and whatnot.
The aggregators love it. Let them give them their pound of flesh. Go on.
That's it, right? I always have to end up investigating my own rumours. I will say I am very annoyed that Aston Villa have picked up Camara from Marseille. I think he is a remarkable young player. When I did the shopping for Ten Hag Part 1 on defensive midfielders, Kamara even was on there. I think he's very good as the deepest midfielder when the team is in possession. He's got very nice switch of play off to the left side of the field, where you imagine those sorts of passes from your central midfielder to Luke Shaw, to Jadon Sancho, to Marcus Rashford would have been superb. I don't know why he's at Villa and how much United would have checked, but he would have been number 2 on my list of defensive midfielders to get. Number 1, I think you can put 2 and 2 together, and eventually you understand a certain person playing in France is my preference.
Who's going to Real Madrid supposedly?
Who's that?
He's going to apparently. He's probably going to one of the Champions League finalists. Yeah. But I would absolutely adore. I'd absolutely adore if that certain someone ended up at Manchester United.
Yeah, Liverpool were properly in for him, didn't they? But it does sound like quite a lot of money for him. And then you look at Villa and you said Kamara there, and he's a free, right? And you've got Steven Gerrard going over to Marseille to get the deal done, and it feels already like we're sort of thinking, looking over the fence at what Man City are doing with Haaland, what even Villa are doing with Kamara. You sort of think, United, are they? There is stuff going on clearly, we know, with Frankie de Jong, but you're sort of wondering how quickly that might be resolved.
But Frankie de Jong's not a holding midfielder. That's my sort of screaming, pulling my hair out in that Manchester United. If Paul Pogba leaves Manchester United on the free, and for some reason Frankie de Jong comes in, Manchester United will have not changed any of the big questions about their central midfield. They will again have a player who's really good at progressing the ball from deep, but probably needs a number 6 behind them. They will again have someone who's got very good passes into the final third, but isn't the best at making tackles in that tight central areas in the centre circle. So I'm not saying don't get him. I think he's a cheat code for modern football, and any football club that has 60 million in their back pocket should go to Barcelona. Hey, look, 60 million. Do you want to blink? Just in case. But don't just get Frankie de Jong. I've said all that now, and the aggregator is going to cook me all summer.
I think where Manchester United are at is Erik ten Hag and John Murtough have been meeting in Amsterdam before this week about which players the club should identify and bring in. So United have got a budget. A lot will depend on the players which leave and how much money Manchester United get for those players. I find it interesting that you say 60 million. That's a figure that Liverpool don't really go to. Liverpool are in the 35 to 40 million market, and Jurgen Klopp's very good at that, and their recruitment's obviously a step above Manchester United's. I know that lots of agents have been putting their players into Manchester United. The person that they were putting the calls into was Matt Judge. That's now changed. But you do have John Murtough working with Erik ten Hag. They've got their own pretty clear ideas, I think. There's a lot of, I won't say merry-go-round because that's a cliche, but there's a lot of clubs just jockeying for position at the moment. I think United are in quite a weak place when it comes to offering the players. If you're in charge at Chelsea or Liverpool and Manchester City, and you look at Manchester United's squad, I don't think there's a huge number. I think there's a tiny number of players who they would be interested in. So it's not going to be the easiest transfer market for Manchester United. I also think there needs to be a little bit of reality when clubs like Barcelona think, okay, we'll let you have Frankie de Jong, but you're English and we're going to charge you $1 billion zillion for it. I just do not think you're getting those stupid fees. Not even like the Jadon Sancho stuff, and that's a little bit of a hangover because of COVID.
Okay, let's move it on then, because about 90% of the responses that we had to this question demanded passion and desire, which Lee said. Adam said a clear system and a bit of desire, that'll do me. There was requests for a plan, structure, controlling football matches, all sort of basic things really, to be honest, Laurie. But it is actually sort of that simple for Erik ten Hag, isn't it?
It shows where we're at, doesn't it, I suppose, in that that's just the base level that fans are asking for. And it does make me laugh at the irony, I suppose, because that was probably the thing that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got criticised the most for, sort of talking about passion, desire, commitment, saying that actually it's not about tactics sometimes. So, clearly that's something that needs to be reinstilled into this team, because you felt like they did have it last season. I know second place wasn't, this is last season now I'm talking about, Ian. Bloody hell, I've realised I've already, this is 2020, 2021 I'm talking about.
Season before last,
there we go. And 74 points wasn't a great...
Two seasons
ago. 74 points wasn't a great total for finishing second, but at the same time, it felt like United were actually building, and then clearly the transfers in the summer and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's handling of those players, it disintegrated the kind of foundations that it was built on. So I guess just going back to that level is what fans are asking for, right? They felt a disconnect with the players, but it's going to be a difficult thing still for Ten Hag to instill, because you have got big personalities there still. We talk about Cristiano Ronaldo a lot on this podcast in the past. That's still going to be something for him to solve. He's clearly put his colours to the mast there in terms of talking about how pivotal he thinks he'll be in his team. Gave a very short answer to the journalist who asked about what will Ronaldo bring to your team, goals. But I think that will still mean that he has to just, I guess, go around his dressing room and see what players are thinking, and that's going to be a crucial factor in terms of whether he can get this unified desire, commitment, passion from his players.
I think what's really going to be interesting is Ten Hag will want Manchester United to be a coherent pressing side, right? The Ajax team counter-pressed fiercely in central areas, and they were really good at doing tactical fouls. And the Brighton game, the Brighton defeat, had a moment, I think when they were maybe 2-0 down, where Scott McTominay tried to tactically foul a Brighton player. Couldn't do it. He really pulled down on their collar and couldn't get a yellow card to stop a counter-attack. And then Dalot tried doing it as well. And I went, this United team can't even quite marry the technical skills with the players that have the passion don't quite have the technical skills, and the players that have the technical skills don't necessarily have the physicality, as Rannick said. And how Ten Hag does that in a summer where you have to go off, in a pre-season where you have to go off to Australia and to Thailand, and you bear in mind some of the things Laurie's detailed in that really good piece about Jose Mourinho ages ago, about just how the physical tracking equipment just got chucked out the window and Solskjaer had to build from a low base. That's going to be a real challenge, because I look over at Newcastle and I see what Eddie Howe has done, and to get Newcastle to play a pretty coherent, settled possession team in the half season, the bit he's done. And I think that should be possible in the pre-season. A manager should be able to come in and for the starting game of the season, get them playing pressing football. Probably need to buy a DM. Bruno Guimaraes would have been perfect for United, but blah, 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 blah. Can Ten Hag do that and fly around the world twice and get players like Cristiano to buy in is going to be really, really, really difficult.
Another debate that a lot of fans wanted us to talk about is the captain. I thought that it was one of the most revealing things about Erik ten Hag's press conference, like we mentioned on the last podcast, the fact that he offered no guarantee in that press conference that Harry Maguire would continue as United captain into next season. Tanu's picked up on that on Twitter, saying that he thinks the armband should stay with Harry Maguire. There were shouts in there for Cristiano Ronaldo to be named captain as well. And Philip's got an interesting point, Carl. He said that he wants it to be voted by the squad as to who wears the armband. It's something that Manchester City have done for the last few years under Pep Guardiola. Do you think that's the right move for United? I mean, Ten Hag's worked under Pep before. Maybe that's something he's picked up from him.
I think that's probably the most sensible thing to do. I wrote a piece about the captaincy situation a couple of weeks ago, and I think one big thing Ten Hag needs to be mindful of is the nice problems they have at United. So throughout Solskjaer's tenure, he described certain situations as a nice problem. It was a nice problem to have someone like Paul Pogba have to come off the bench at the start of the season before last. It was a nice problem to have Dean Henderson and David De Gea pushing each other for the number one. I think the captaincy situation used to be a nice problem, but much like a lot of things at United, it's probably lasted too long and now is going to become a serious problem if you don't do something quickly. So I can quite easily imagine Ten Hag taking the same approach as what Leeds did with Bielsa, what City have done, what Liverpool have done. I believe Arsenal are recently doing this as well, which is basically just putting it towards a vote in the dressing room. Say, pick your captain, and that's the person who runs the dressing room. If that's still Harry Maguire, then you stick by Harry Maguire and he continues. If it's Cristiano Ronaldo, then you go with that trajectory. I can also see another situation where Ten Hag goes, you know what, I'll take it off Maguire. Say, you need to go get back to your best form, and you probably need to do this away from the spotlight of having to do interviews and whatnot as United's captain. I'm going to give it to another player like David De Gea to make it the captaincy less of an issue, or possibly giving it to Cristiano Ronaldo and say, you're here for at least one more year, you can hold it for one more year, and then by that time we'll see if any of my players in the transfer market want to become a captaincy as well.